Technology is overall what is going to make possible for everyone in the world to be able to follow their teams.
You're listening to Sports Tech Feed, the global sports technology podcast.
Hello and welcome to Sports Tech Feed. I'm your host, Tom Salomes. Great to have you join us again this week. On today's show, we have Fredda Rodriguez, Head of Digital and Emerging Technologies at Concacaf. Fredda joined Concacaf 3 years ago to oversee the Digital and Emergent Technologies department, including digital platforms, product development, digital marketing, content strategy, innovation, and all digital revenue generation activities linked to Concacaf tournaments and events. She's got over 20 years of experience in the digital field, including with clients such as Intel, Cisco, SAP, ESPN, Avon and Telemundo. Fredda has won several awards in the digital media and interactive activation categories across both the US and Latin American market. So it's a pleasure to have her on the show today, talking about the role of digital innovation and engagement with Concacaf and obviously the massively diverse and distributed fan base that it has. As I mentioned, I'm your host, Thomas Loams from Sports Tech World Series. If you don't subscribe to our weekly newsletter, then I highly recommend you do that if you're interested in sports technology, which you're listening to me talk now, so you definitely are. So sportstechworldseries.com/newsletter. Sign up for that. It comes out every Thursday. Gives you a digest of the best news, most interesting articles and deep dives within the industry. I'll be back at the end of the interview with a few final thoughts, but for now, here's Fredda. Fredda Rodriguez, Head of Digital and Emerging Technologies at Concacaf. Great to have you on Sports Tech Feed.
Hi, thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation.
So for those not in this corner of the world, specifically the US and the Americas, can you describe a little bit about what the role of Concacaf is and who you represent?
Sure, absolutely. So CONCACAF is one of FIFA's 6 confederations. So we service 41 MAs or member associations, nations. And our role is for that servicing is we have the same mission. The mission is football first. So we are, what we do is promote football, is promote to increase the participation, is to also generate opportunities for those 41 nations, for their teams. So it goes from professional development to technical development to actual development of youth tournaments and youth play and, the younger players.
Yeah, so in the same way that UEFA is for Europe, CONCACAF is that confederation.
Correct. Exactly. So our regions are North America, the Caribbean, and Central America. So it basically goes up the north from Canada to French Guiana in the south. So it's a big region.
Yeah, so quite geographically diverse, and also in terms of the populations, the fan base, the socioeconomic levels, the everything, the background.
I think that's the most amazing part is the richest, but at the same time, sometimes the challenging part, because we have very diverse, like you were saying. I mean, from the geographically to development wise in every single sense, from economical, culturally is my favorite part. It's very diverse, and that's what makes what we do very rich, funny at times, so it's amazing in that sense.
Yeah, and I want to dive into that a little bit, but kind of taking a step back, because we're going to talk about fan engagement is the main area that we're talking about today. And how does that differ for a confederation than from a team? I mean, there's some obvious things I can think of, but from your perspective, all those member organizations, member nations, and all the teams and all the different levels and all the different players that play nationally versus a specific team, how does that alter your thinking?
Yeah, when you are a team, you are promoting only that team in the competition they're playing in at the moment, and you're trying to grow the fan base of the teams. You don't care about anything else. Your focus is in nothing else but that team. So that is a complete different game. Yeah,
and I mean, I guess you tailor as a team, and I'm thinking of say a team like Tottenham Hotspur in the UK. They had a Korean player's son play for them. And so when they're marketing into Korea with a global fan base, they're obviously pushing that player who's from there. Same as, an Australian into the NBA, Ben Simmons or wherever else, you're trying to really leverage that national tie, and that's when you would customize what you do. But at the end of the day, you are pushing your team, and the
You're
product,
pushing exactly.
the kind of the value proposition, or the I guess the connection that you're pushing is just your team. Whereas, as you said, that can be a little bit more difficult for a confederation where you have to be neutral across how you do that to still engage with the fans.
Exactly. We basically what we do is we show the same passion for a goal from Honduras to a goal from Jamaica to a goal from the United States or Mexico. For us, it's the same. A goal is a goal. We are happy they're playing. We're happy we're making these tournaments happen, that we're giving them opportunities. While a game is going to probably show everywhere that they are unhappy that they lost, or a goal that wasn't theirs. It's probably not important in when they are narrating what happened in a game. So it is very different. It's like playing for a band versus planning the concert.
Yeah. I like that analogy. So it's kind of just that you're a fan of music rather than the particular band. It's always more like a festival, I guess, in terms of what's going on. So what role does technology and digital play in engaging that massively diverse fan base across, as you said, every possible metric that you want to do it, socioeconomic, cultural, geographic, whatever, like just, stages in terms of, the economic strength of the teams. I mean,
Correct.
the US women's national team versus one of the women's teams in say a smaller nation somewhere in the Caribbean. How do you do that? I assume that technology and data is a big role in that.
Yeah, technology is overall what is going to make possible for everyone in the world to be able to follow their teams, right? And follow what's happening. And it doesn't matter if they can watch the game or not in a specific country around the world. Through technology, we're going to be able to make possible that they at least know what the scores were, who advanced, what happened in a game, what's that color story that it may be interesting. So the role of technology is to provide that reach globally. It's not even about the 41 nations globally, because you have a lot of Mexicans maybe living in Spain. You have a lot of, Canadians living in Dubai, So technology is what enables that reach that makes possible for all of them to continue following their home teams or their clubs. So that's the main role of technology in our confederation, allowing that possibility. And that applies not only to my area, but to broadcast. We produce all our games, and we always try to bring the best technology possible. So those games on TV, or whether they are streamed or not, have the best quality. And the best quality means that it can be reached anywhere in the world where we have the rights or where we stream. So it touches everywhere. Technology is really a key part of one of our first pillars, that is to offer that reach and that opportunity.
Yeah, I think when it's done well, it's democratizing and that,
Exactly.
yeah, it can be a phrase that's overused, but it's very true in the sense of the ability to just access it. Just not even
Exactly.
talking about major fan enhancements, engagements, the latest bells and whistles, just that basic level of access.
And access is actually one of our pillars. So access for us is a priority, because it's about servicing those 41 MAs and those funds anywhere in the world, to provide that specifically.
Yeah.
That access.
And how do you go about rolling out, I guess, so that's the, as you said, access, one of your pillars, the basic level, but then the bells and whistles. So if we're talking about some of the kind of latest fan engagement tools, a lot of them are relying, or I guess their growth is dependent on things like 5G and ultra fast internet, whereas that's not that common, for the majority of the world. So how do you pick and choose what you're going to use and roll out?
There are things that we cannot control and we have no authority on, as the technology or connectivity that somebody has in a little town somewhere. What we try to do, and I think we touched on this before in our prior conversation, is that's why we provide an opportunity for everyone to access these games or these events or any content that we do in every single possible way. If it's YouTube, it's Facebook, it's streaming to our website, it's streaming to our app, it's TV, public TV, cable TV, pay-per-view, whatever opportunity we have to, again, give that access. So that's the most that we can do. We can just try to make it as available as possible so that they can enjoy it based on their possibilities, but also even in the United States, in the possibility of how they like it. People have different preferences on how to watch a game, when and how. So some people prefer a tablet, some other people prefer a mobile, some people can't resist to watch it on TV. So we try to provide all these opportunities because for us, what matters is that possibility of the fan following their team.
Yeah, definitely. So you mentioned the kind of social platforms, so YouTube, Facebook, whatever else. Obviously, third-party providers, that's where the audience is, and that's where the audience lives. So obviously, you need to meet that audience, that fan base there. What about first-party data? I mean, that's becoming probably one of the hottest topics in the fan engagement space, is the idea of actually owning the data on your fans. Where does that sit in your strategy?
It's basically let's say the spotlight of our strategy for 2021. We just launched a new website. We are launching a Roku app, so for connected TV. We have our app that also has streaming capabilities. And yes, we're continually going to be supporting, and it's specifically because of that. We want the fan to watch it anywhere. But if we can drive them to our owned and operated platforms, that's what we're going to do, and that is going to be the focus. But not by limiting, the other channels to have that access to those streams, but actually to capturing this data better to understand and optimize the content they like and their preferences. So what we're trying to do is, with different partnerships with DMPs and all these technologies, trying to understand better our audiences, how they behave, what is that they like. No personal data, it's important. What we really want is to understand if they go into the website, what is that they really want to see, what is that they spend more time, what are the articles that resonated the most. And then in different aspects, when it comes to different groups, women versus men, youth versus an older generation, what is that they like? What are we trying to tell them? How do we tell them better? So that's basically the focus on us, leveraging better our first party data.
Which comes back to the point earlier about when you have such a diverse fan base, knowing more about them is incredibly important, and to be able to personalize that down.
Exactly.
Because a lot of the assumptions are not that useful that you would usually have about a team if you live in Liverpool and you go for Liverpool. Great, that's fantastic. We know that about you. We don't really need to, learn that as much more as compared to you could be, as you said, like an immigrant to another area. You could have family that are involved in this, and then also across men's and women's as well. I think that's something that's
exactly
is just the assumption that women will just watch women's sports, men will just watch men's sports is completely false. That is absurd. The US women's national team, their jersey in 2018 or 2019 was the highest selling soccer jersey, outsold the men's, outsold Barcelona's, outsold all that kind of stuff. So it's the kind of strength and support that people have for women's sport is reflected in the kind of the connection they have to it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, really interesting. So what about in terms of I guess monetizing that? Like where's the obviously for a team, it's sell more jerseys, sell more tickets, sell, and then increase your product and sell more sponsorship. Where does it make sense for Concacaf to actually connect with these fans?
It is exactly the same. Through that first party data in growing our fan base is our biggest currency. It's our biggest currency for ratings, because it's our biggest currency for ticket sales, for merchandise, and for our sponsors. So basically, we have a strong commitment to put the fan first and give them the engagement and the experiences that they want to have and that they enjoy the most. to live as much as possible what football is all about. But at the same time, this is something that we leverage to offer more value to all our partners. And those are our broadcasters, those are our sponsors and of that, because the more affinity we create with a fan, the more loyalty we're going to have. And that's the only thing that we can actually guarantee to all these stakeholders. So for us, fans are the most important. The first thing, for us is to bring that engagement to them. But at the same time, we know that if it's well done, it's only going to generate revenue.
Yeah. And how does it work with, because again, kind of analogizing to teams, you have in season, off season, when they're playing, when they have a bit of a break, and then when they're going into training, and then
Correct.
And then season. Concacaf doesn't run to that. So
no.
Yeah, can you explain kind of what it looks like in terms of when tournaments are, and this is just maybe at the top level, because obviously you've got lots of other things going on in terms of youth programs and things like that all the time. But what does that actually look like?
Well, it's a never-ending season.
Yeah.
Because what we have national team competitions, we have clubs competitions, and then we have to split those. For example, those club competitions based on their, kind of in per region or the development of those specific clubs. So we may have a CONCACAF Champions League during the February to May. And then once that ends, and that participates a lot of teams from Central America, from North America, Canada, MLS, from the US, all these clubs. But then we're also going to start just in a few days, we're going to start another club tournament that is for the Caribbean. Yeah. We also just finished a tournament for futsal. We are going to start beach soccer next Monday. And then towards the end of the year, we're going to have other national tournaments. We have right now coming in the most important tournaments that we have in terms of, the commercially, in the sense of that they're the most popular. Mm-hmm. That is Gold Cup, that happens every 2 years. So Gold Cup starts on July 10th. It is my birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday. And also coming to Austin FC Austin.
Yes.
Stadium. So we're very excited for that in this next.
That's awesome. That's great to hear that. Yeah, we're excited about Austin and playing in Austin. It's an amazing stadium. I haven't been, but I heard it's an amazing venue. So we're very excited about that. And then we have the women's competition. We have the Women Olympic qualifiers last year in February, right before the pandemic, and we only just ended the Men Olympic qualifiers. So with CONCACAF, it's to finish a tournament and you are already preparing for the next one.
Yeah, which
just
is
one after the other one.
Which as we're kind of, is the theme that's emerging from this conversation, is that it's very unique in the sense of there's no off season for you, but then also the fans, that comes in ebbs and flows for them, because their team might not be
exactly
competing in one of the various tournaments, or it might be their national squad is competing, and then their say MLS club or whatever it is,
correct,
in a tournament. So which goes back to knowing what people actually want, like how can you serve that up, because otherwise it's just it's drinking from a fire hose of content. It's just going, well, here's something from the Caribbean qualifiers for something, and then someone who's a Seattle Sounders, freezing up in Seattle, just goes, that's not for me. It's
exactly. Exactly. So that's why for us there is no seasonality, because we have to continuously promote our games and create content and do the coverage. We do the minute-by-minute coverage of almost all our tournaments. We produce almost all our tournaments. So for us, there is not a season, but you're right. I mean, a fan, I come to learn that there are actually club fans that actually don't follow that much a national competition or the national team. They're very into the clubs, into their club. And It's amazing to see how, how much passion and loyalty they have for that club. While there are other, and we see it even per region, while they are a region that is super into engaged when their national team, but they don't really follow maybe some of their club's competitions. So yeah, it changes, but for us, nothing changes. The amount of work and the amount of dedication and the plans that we have to do cover all of them.
Yeah. So, I mean, how is it, where's it going? How's it getting better? Because the obvious answer is with digital and data to the point that we're at now is just the ability to gather first party data and personalize experiences to a fan based on who they are as an individual. So where does it go from here? Does it just get better and better and better in terms of what you know about these fans? Or is it more you can capture more people in the sense of, you start to get more and more first party data on more of your fan base, or a combination of them?
It is a combination. I will think. I think our KPI is always going to be to grow that fan base, right? We need to grow that fan base because it's important for the teams, it's important for the following, it's important for us commercially. But at the same time, we want to get to learn and understand them better so that we can provide better content and better opportunities and better experiences. So it's going to go hand in hand. As we grow, we hope to learn more, and we are hoping to create, mapping better our audiences and understand, like when we launched our Concacaf W Instagram channel, that was in 2018, towards the end of 2018. I could tell you that we knew very little about the fan of women's football. And through Instagram and their reactions and the content they resonate, we knew the fan that goes to the stadium. We knew how the fan follow their team and things like that. But very insightful information has been amazing through all this content, especially the behind the scenes content, those that the fans don't see on the screen or during the 90 minutes, getting those very intimate interviews with some of these women, players, referees, or ex-players even, and understanding what is that women want from women's football. It's beyond the 90 minutes. They want a connection, they want to understand, they want to belong. So it is amazing what you learn about that and how you then make a decision between, okay, I'm going to focus my content plan on this type of content versus this type of content. The same woman that follows, in our Concacaf W Instagram may behave completely different when they're following a male national team competition. It's a completely different environment for them, and they're following that for very different reasons. So it's amazing all the things that you can learn. That's why I'm looking forward, and we have worked very hard into increasing the investment in our technology to get access to that first party data that give us true insights.
Yeah, I'm understanding that. I mean, that is the benefit of social as well, is even just on a surface level, is understanding, well, what engages with people, what doesn't, what performs, what doesn't, and then
Correct.
And then being able to use that to go, well, if this is the best performing content, it's in addition to the game, is maybe we put that on our platforms, and that's the way to
Correct.
drive people to the first party owned and operated platforms.
Exactly. And remember that now it's not one screen, it's second screen, it's a third screen, right? That they find. If you give them a fourth screen, they're going to be watching the fourth screen. So basically, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to understand what kind of content goes into that second screen, into that third screen, to keep them more engaged, to bring more, to extend more of that experience. For Gold Cup, for example, we're going to have live shows. And we're looking forward to see that and what's going to be their reaction. What is that they really want to see on the show before the game and a show after the game, and all those comments. It's like, it's never enough when it comes to football for a fan. They want it all. They want every minute. They want to know all the details. So it's very fascinating, especially in sports, because I've been in the similar role for other brands. But what you see with a fan of football, and I imagine it's like that for every sport, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, in light of the past few months, the ideas of fans, not customers, that
Exactly.
I've been saying about is they demand to be treated like customers in the sense of the quality of the service they get. So especially if you're owned, operated platforms, your app, your website, whatever that is, that needs to be at a level that they're used to, because they're comparing it against other brands, social platforms, whatever,
Exactly.
in terms of UI, all that kind of stuff. But they think of themselves as fans, though. They have this loyalty, they have this affinity, they have something a little bit wrong upstairs. I think all sports fans have that as well. TV screen or at a stadium hugging strangers, all that kind of stuff.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you generally don't do that when you go to the local supermarket and you see that your favorite brand of
Absolutely.
cereals on special or something. You're not hugging someone in the aisles. There's something that is that brand affinity that's very, very different.
It's very different. It's very deep, and it's kind of also like transcends a person, because then it goes into, it's a whole family, it's a whole culture, it's a whole group of friends, and becomes part of who they are and their traditions, and it's so important. I know I work with someone, he's part of my team. He says he's watching, he would watch all Sunday with his dad soccer games since he was 2. So I bet that when he has kids, it's going to be the same tradition, and that goes on and on and on. So it's beautiful. It's a very different experience to anything else.
Yeah, and it's also something that travels with you. I mean, in terms of affinity to other brands or things like that, that there's obviously that affinity that people have in terms of, well, I love Nike, I love Adidas, whatever else. But in terms of going, well, this is my favorite sporting team, I'll move countries and I'll still be a fan of my national team or of my whatever else that is. That's something that with a global fan base, and especially something as distributed as what Concacaf's got, it's unique to each person, each location, but it's very, very similar, almost. I'm struggling for the word, but the same for how people experience it in terms of the passion and what people also want out of that, which is, as you said, is more content's personalized to them, and getting behind the scenes, understanding the game, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Well, that's been really good to chat with you today, Fredda. But before we go, I'd like to finish off with one last question, which kind of perfectly segues from what we were just talking about. And what is your favorite sporting moment of all time?
What is my favorite
sporting moment of all time? So can be something that you've experienced in person, something you've watched on TV, can be from when you were a kid, can be it can be last week, it can be whenever it is. Doesn't have to be anything to do with CONCACAF, but
no, of course. But I would tell you that I think one of the most amazing moments has been when Christine Sinclair made the goal last year that made her the worldwide record with more goal scores in lifetime for male and women.
Yeah.
It's not just for around women's football. It's in the world. That was very amazing and very touching. It was an amazing experience to see that and to be able to actually cover that moment. And we have leveraged that moment as much as we can, because it's historical. It's amazing, very touching.
Yeah,
I would say that has been the most impactful moment for me.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks again for your time. And looking forward to hopefully going to one of the games in Austin. I think it's going to be one of the hottest tickets in town. The US women's team is playing Q2 Stadium this year as well. So again.
Oh, that's great.
I think maybe I'll make it as far as the forecourt outside and have a drink and watch it on the screen. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that, and also following along with everything that's happening with CONCACAF going forwards.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much for the invitation. This was fun. And yes, I hope that you can enjoy all the games and that you get to go to one of them in Austin. It should be pretty fun for you too.
But if I don't, I've got the app and I've got the website to get coverage on.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
There you have it. That was Fredda Rodriguez, Head of Digital and Emerging Technologies at Concacaf. As I said at the outset of the show, really interesting how they engage that diverse and distributed fan base. I think that's one of the key takeaways for me, is that the ability for an organisation such as Concacaf or any other federations, leagues, kind of bigger entities that serve a much bigger fan base, the role of technology is incredibly important for being able to do that efficiently and effectively. So thanks again to Fredda for joining us. And thank you to you as the listener for tuning in. We'll be back in another 2 weeks with another episode of Sports Tech Feed. Looking forward to joining you then.